Hey, what's up, guys? So, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit. I like to call myself a hunting reloader. I've been reloading for a long time. Got a small uh, inventory of stuff here, and but all of my reloading is focused on hunting. I don't really enjoy going out there and just plinking around. Everything I have is purpose driven. So I figured I would introduce myself in a way that I show you everything that I bring to the range. I end up using all of it. So, of course, rifles. So, I usually try to shoot two rifles at a time. Well, not at a time, but two rifles. Uh, Shooting one string of one, and then using my MagnetoSpeed barrel cooler on one while I'm shooting a string of another one. So, of course, you got to bring your targets. These small targets by Easy Aim. I like these for when I have an optic that I'm going to zoom in well with. So, this is a Vortex Diamondback. It's kind of basic, but it does give you good zoomies. This is my thermal coyote rig. So during the summer, I like to play around and try to find the best load possible. So that's why the day scope's on there now. This is Ruger American 450 Bushmaster, Leopold VX Freedom scope, 1:4. And I know this scope isn't the best for load development. Today we're testing subsonic. We're only going to be at 50 yards. So I'm using this bigger target here. Easier to see, and I'm only shooting two strings, so I don't really got to worry about it getting cluttered up. So earlier in the summer, I was shooting some subsonic loads without my suppressor. So today is going to be my first shots with a suppressor. So on the 6.5 Grendel, my coyote rig, we're going to have an 8208 shootout today. So from near to far, that's 95 grain VMAX, 90 grain Varmageddon, 105 grain Blitz King, 90 grain Spear TNT. And so I'll talk a little bit about more of my reloading philosophy. I used to be pretty traditional, load up 3 or 5 rounds and hit the range, and the first group that grouped the best, well, by golly, there's my load, good enough to hunt. Well, the perfectionist in me always sought to dial things tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. I pretty much have production rifles. I don't have anything custom. Nothing's been tailored to me. I don't mess with length of pole or anything like that. It's a Ruger American for the most part. It's an AR that I've built from mediocre, middle of the road type manufacturers, Ballistic Products, Odin Works, Aero Precision, Palmetto State on a couple of lowers. Nothing's really extravagant. So I was expecting bench rest accuracy from production equipment. I have been humbled because I've always kind of thought of myself as a great shooter until I really got behind the trigger and saw the crazy amount of variables that are out there. And even with reloading, there's variables. You would hear the old timers say reloading is so much more accurate because you have complete control over the process. You do. You absolutely do. That just means when your loads don't shoot, that it's your fault. It's not Hornady. It's not Sierra. It's not Nosler's fault. It's your fault. Did you measure every single powder charge? How are you weighing your powder charges? Are you using a good piece of equipment to load that? Are you using the old tried and true, or the scale? I'm not. I'm using a Hornady powder trickler. Lots of times a load will drop And if I'm going for 27.3 grains of IMR 8208, a lot of times it'll drop and it'll say 27.6 instead of 27.3. But then after a couple of seconds, it decides that it does weigh 27.3 grains. The numbers kind of calm back down, which I get. There's some inertia there, and the powder kernels are falling onto the pan, and you can get some changes there. But then there's sometimes I'll lift up the pan and kind of wiggle the powder around in the pan, and then set it back down on the scale, and it weighs different. So I know that I've got some inherent inaccuracies within my equipment. That's one variable. If you're shooting a hollow tip bullet like a Sierra Match King or a Spear TNT, and you're measuring just your case overall length, are you making sure that meat plat is you're measuring from the same point every time? You're probably not, because those meat plats can be canted sometimes. So do you decide that you're always going to load from the low side or the high side? Or do you just you measure it once and then you roll with it? You just keep sending it, slamming your bullets into the charged case and you're good to go. I know that I should be measuring base to ogive in most cases. It's better accuracy that way. But then also, my tool is also just the Hornady comparator. I don't have the highest faith that comparator tool is giving me accurate measurements, especially when I'm just, thumb screwing it on to a dial caliber. So all I'm trying to get at is that there's variables before you even hit the range. Did you measure your primer pockets? Do they have consistent tension? Are they set to a consistent depth? Was all of your brass prepped in the exact same way? Was it sized on the same day? Are you keeping your lot numbers of brass separate? Have you annealed your cases? Have you chamfered and deburred all of your cases? All of that is increasing variables. So then you sit down on the range, and maybe you've only got 1 hour at the range. It's not a lot of time. Say you got 6 strings you want to shoot of 10 rounds each, or 5 rounds each, or 3 rounds each. And that's not a lot of time. You're already kind of setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up to rush your shots, to forget your fundamentals, to then once you start seeing your groups open up, your frustration is getting there, and it just makes for a worse range experience. I try to go to the range when I know that I've got plenty of time for the amount of ammo that I want to shoot. I try to go to the range when I'm not on my 5th or 6th cup of coffee. I try to go to the range when I'm just in a good mental state. If I'm pissed off or, just amped up, I'm excited, I know that's going to translate to how I shoot that day. And I just try to be as mellow as possible, so that way I remember all my fundamentals. Hornady does a great podcast, and they did kind of a 2.5 episode special called "Your Groups Are Too Small," and that title is very clickbait. I thought, man, what do you mean my groups are too small? I'm doing pretty good. I've got some MOA loads loaded up in just about all my rifles. What are you talking about? And the gist of the podcast says that a 3 to 5 round and even a 10 round load session is statistically irrelevant. That what you may be seeing on an ATS 3-shot group, and then you bump the powder up, 0.3 grains, and now all of a sudden that group is opened up to a 1-inch group. Their testing showed that that's normal dispersion. That the ballisticians at Hornady they found greater variation between changing powder in bullets versus altering a powder charge. And I forget the ballistician's name, but he said essentially his new process is to essentially pick a powder charge in the top third of the bottom of the top third of the powder charge. Just pick that charge, shoot 20 rounds, and that's going to give him an idea of how that powder and that bullet combination is going to perform in his rifle. And that's essentially what I've started to do now. And except I've only gone down to 10 rounds. And it's really saved me components. Honestly, it sounds like you're shooting a lot more, but you're actually shooting less. And I'm finding that I'm not suffering, or I'm not losing anything by doing this. But I'm at the range now. We'll talk to you later. I'm sorry. This second row here is 120 grain ballistic tip. This is 90 grain Marmageddon. Now these 90 grain Marmageddons are blemished, so just they haven't shot as well. Other things I make sure I bring to the range: magazine, suppressor tools, ears, brass catcher, chronograph, bug spray, some CLP wipes, lens cloth, data book, pencil. So I end up using these Lyman reloading books. I think they're very helpful. I kind of got mine, I got 2 in one binder here. So one is set up for 300 Blackout and 450 Bushmaster, and one's set up for 6.5 Grendel and 6.5 PRC. So as I'm getting ready to shoot my strings, all my data is enclosed in there. And what I do at the range is I record the SD and the ES and just the minimum, the maximum, and the average velocity. That's all I'm doing table side, and that's really just to kind of kill time between strings, giving that barrel more time to cool down. When I get home, I'll usually plot this into an Excel and really nerd out on my data. So starting this summer, I needed to organize my thoughts, and I give myself an idea of what I'm going to load throughout the year, so that way when I get time, I have got a plan in mind. So you can see I wanted to check out more of the smaller grain stuff for the Grendel, and so this is what we're shooting today. The stuff that's highlighted I've already shot. The stuff that's not highlighted I haven't shot. So next time I shoot the 6.5 PRC, I know that I'm loading up Mag Pros. Next time I shoot 300 Blackout, I know I'm going to load up with IMR 4227 or H110 for the 190 grain Match King. 450 Bushmaster, I got this half highlighted, and that shows here. So I shot a string and a string unsuppressed. So today's going to be shooting a string suppressed and a string suppressed. I'm going to see how that affects our SDs and our accuracy. These are 425 grain makers. And I'll probably shoot some of the factory Hornady subsonic just to get it sighted in. I'll see you guys at the range. So as I kind of started saying down on my reloading bench, the goal of this channel is to tell some of you reloaders out there who see guys who are shooting Nat's ass accurate groups, and F-class shooters who are shooting custom rifles. Those guys are like Hollywood, man. They shoot really well. They do this full time. They are very talented individuals who have spent a lot of money in their sport, and I commend them for that. If I could, I would. This channel is geared more towards your average Joes who aren't satisfied with factory offerings, who maybe just want to tinker around reloading, and who generally like the outdoors. I would say if I have a MOA rifle and I'm shooting a load MOA, I'm winning. If I'm shooting a load that's sub MOA, even better. Initially, my channel is going to be focused on approximately 4 calibers. 6.5 Grendel. That's what I use for coyote hunting. That's what I use for thermal. And there's just so many variables that go into thermal hunting too. So I'm not convinced that those are the most accurate scopes in the world anyways. So I've been developing loads all summer long for the upcoming coyote season with the day scope. So those loads, one, I'm shooting them in 80 and 90 degree weather. 2, it's with day glass from a bench rest. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play eeny, meeny, miny, mo, choose the load that I think is the best, the most consistent, the lowest SD, and I'm going to swap my scope out for my thermal, sight that back in, and then I probably won't realistically shoot that weapon again until the nights are getting down around 30 or 40 degrees. My velocity is going to get lower from when I sighted it in. So if I was smart, I'd shoot it again in November and adjust from there. Nothing's worse than getting a coyote coming in on a string, and then you give the old whoop whoop, and he stops, and you sail one foot over the top of his head or into the dirt right in front of him. So a little zeroing before season is going to pay dividends. The next rifle that I'm going to be working with is my 450 Bushmaster. In Iowa here, we are a straight wall only state, so I'm limited to straight walls. When I was just starting hunting, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I ran with a slug gun my first year with a pretty good group of party hunters, and I didn't hit anything. It seemed like it was just sailing them all over the place, wild. And my brother-in-law had the Ruger American ranch rifle, 450 Bushmaster, and he just raved about it. He says it was awesome. So I had a spare $400 and I bought it. And the very next year, party hunting with the same group of guys, and on the first day I was the only one who shot deer because I was just so stupid accurate with it. And these straight walls have really they've taken it to the next level as far as harvesting deer in the state. It's just my opinion. We could argue about this all day long, but it seems like guys are taking more accurate shots at ranges instead of just lobbing slugs across a cornfield. And I think that's safer, and we're thinning the herd the way we need to. The third caliber I'm going to be messing with, and I'm really not going to be messing with it a whole lot yet, is 6.5 PRC. I just picked up a 6.5 PRC. My wife and I and another friend of mine from the Marine Corps in 2025 or 2026, depending how the draw goes, we're going to go out to Montana and hunt pronghorn. Been buying points in Montana, been buying points in Wyoming starting this year. Probably way late to the game. Should have been buying points a long time ago. But the PRC is going to be my Western rifle. Might be undersized for elk. Guys can argue about that in the comments all day long. I think it's going to do fine for elk. But we'll start off with pronghorn. I've only got one Western trip under my belt. Me and that same friend, we went out to Montana for spring bear hunting. Saw everything except a bear. And when we ran into a local, he said that we were just a little bit late getting to the game. So the last caliber I'm probably going to be messing with is I call it my acreage rifle. It's my 300 Blackout SBR. Man, that thing's just so fun to shoot. Instead of a 17 HMR, like a lot of guys will have for shooting squirrels and woodchucks and stuff around the acreage, man, I just love toting around that little SBR and lobbing subsonic 190 grain, 208 grain bullets at them. I don't got to worry about that thing traveling far. You know, it's not like I'm going to shoot right towards my neighbor's house with it. But still, it's just a lot of fun. I might mess with a little bit of 44 Magnum. That's also going to be my sidearm that I take with me to Montana. I really don't have a ton of components for that. So it's pretty much going to be, does this go bang without blowing my revolver apart? And I'm going to be happy with it. So that's what you can look forward to in the days to come. I'll probably make a video going over some of my summer testing with 6.5 Grendel, comparing and contrasting some of my Excel reports and show you what I do. I started talking about it before. Ever since I've listened to that Hornady podcast about your groups being too small, and I stopped ladder testing. I stopped trying to do this OCW method. I'm picking a charge weight. I'm picking a powder, or I should say, I'm picking a powder, picking a bullet, picking a charge weight in the bottom of the top third of the charges, and I'm going to the range. I'm shooting quality components. I try to shoot Lapua, Norma, Peterson brass. Try to shoot just match primers. Try to shoot, I try to put a factory crimp on all of my rounds. And just overall try to be consistent and just do my best. So thanks all of you for tuning in, and I hope this is helpful to somebody to listen to me ramble. I kind of think I'm an idiot sometimes, and my wife is especially going to think I'm an idiot. But take her easy. Semper Fi.